Enoch 2025 is the movie that has unleashed enigmas history never dared to solve. Based on one of the most forbidden and forgotten texts of all time, fallen angels, Nephilim, and the final judgment as you never imagined. Discover the truth that was silenced for centuries. What you are about to witness is not just a story, it's a warning to all humanity. Prepare yourself to unravel a mystery that transcends time, a revelation that has remained hidden in the shadows of history for countless centuries. The account of a man named Enoch, who walked in deep communion with the very creator of the universe, is not a distant legend, but a master key to unlocking enigmas that humanity never dared to question. This is a narrative that erupts into collective consciousness with the force of a seismic event, materializing on screen as the impactful Enoch 2025. This is not a primordial truth that was intentionally forgotten, silenced. Immerse yourself, then, in a universe of guarded knowledge, an ancient wisdom founded upon one of the most forbidden, censored, and forgotten texts of all time. Allow yourself to feel the electricity emanating from the celestial beings who strayed from their divine purpose. Contemplate the terrifying grandeur of the ancient giants, and confront the relentless proximity of the great final reckoning, the final judgment, as you never imagined. The time has come to know the truth that, for ages, was deliberately kept silent. What you are about to witness is not merely a story. It is, above all, a fundamental warning, a solemn and urgent admonition to all humanity. The journey of this antediluvian patriarch, Enoch, begins in a seemingly modest way, but carries a monumental spiritual weight and a significance that echoes through eternity. He did not possess the power of a sovereign of vast kingdoms, nor the prowess of a legendary warrior who dominated bloody battlefields. On the contrary, Enoch was a singular individual who, according to the oldest and most reliable records, established an intimate, genuine, transparent, and unbreakable connection with the very source of all existence, the creator of the universe. In our incessant pursuit of material and ephemeral achievements, have we lost capacity to forge such a profound connection with the sacred? This intimacy was so rare, so extraordinary, and so distinctly unique in its essence that it transformed him into an absolutely peerless figure in his era, someone whose life experience unfolded on a completely different plane from the other mortals around him. Unlike his ancestors and his own descendants, Enoch's life path did not culminate in the common fate of all living beings, the cold and inevitable grave. Instead of facing biological termination, the conclusion of his earthly journey occurred in an absolutely singular, mysterious, and divinely orchestrated manner. He was raptured, taken from the earth by a divine force that transcends human comprehension, without even tasting the bitterness of death. What does this divine translation reveal to us about the reward of a life lived in deep harmony with the Creator? This enigmatic transition, this inexplicable and divinely planned disappearance, has always fascinated and intrigued the most profound scholars, the most perceptive theologians, and the tireless seekers of truth throughout countless generations. It is, without a doubt, the enigmatic core of the narrative that we are about to unravel in its deepest and most terrifying layers. However, the true depth and vast dimension of Enoch's life go far beyond the few concise lines dedicated to him in the sacred writings that most people today know as the canonical scriptures. Although the texts that make up the canonical scriptures briefly mention him, it is in another volume, an ancient document shrouded in intense controversy, the ancient writing that bears Enoch's name, that is true and astonishing, terrifying, and profoundly revealing. It is crucial to reiterate a fundamental point. The writing that bears Enoch's name is not part of the books that make up the canonical scriptures of the Holy Bible that most people accept as divinely inspired. The writing that bears Enoch's name is a compendium of revelations, visions, and prophecies that presents itself as a distinct volume, apart from the canonical scriptures. It is an extensive compilation of spiritual insights and cosmic knowledge that dramatically expand human understanding of the beginning of time, the structure of the celestial realms, the primordial history of the earth, and, most significantly, the ultimate destiny of humanity. For countless centuries, it was often considered forbidden text, a parchment that contained truths deemed too dangerous, too complex, or perhaps too powerful to be widely disseminated among the masses. Why were certain truths hidden from humanity for so long, and what price do we pay for this forced ignorance? Within the often secret and enigmatic pages of the writing that bears Enoch's name, we are transported to an era long before the great universal flood, a time of immense corruption, social disorder, and distorted morality on earth. As we look at our own time, with its daily headlines of corruption, violence, and the inversion of values, can we see a frightening parallel with Enoch's days? It is there in these ancient pages that we are presented with the shocking and disturbing narrative of the celestial beings who strayed, angelic entities of immense power, beauty, and glory who, in an act of profound rebellion, disobeyed divine orders and dared to descend from their ethereal realm to physically mingle with human beings. These celestial beings who strayed, also known in some traditions as the Watchers, were seduced by the physical beauty of human women. However, this transgression was not a simple error of judgment or a minor fault. On the contrary, it represented a monumental rebellion against the order established by the Creator himself. They not only united with the daughters of men in carnal relations, but also imparted forbidden knowledge to them, celestial secrets about arcane magic, astrological practices, the difficult art of metallurgy and weapon creation, as well as strategies of war. Knowledge that was strictly intended only for angels and not for fragile and mortal human beings. This wisdom profoundly corrupted humanity, distorting its intrinsic nature and accelerating its fall into deep vices, immoral practices, and abominable iniquities. And in our day, how much forbidden knowledge, or technologies that challenge ethics, are leading us astray from a path of righteousness, bringing us to a new form of corruption? The profane and unnatural union between the celestial beings who strayed and human women resulted in the birth of a hybrid and terribly monstrous offspring, the ancient giants. These beings of colossal stature and superhuman strength were not merely enlarged humans. They were creatures of astonishing proportions, endowed with immense strength and absolutely the massive presence of the ancient giants on Earth introduced even more gratuitous violence, tyrannical oppression, and widespread chaos. They consumed everything they found, from the abundant fruits of the earth to wild and domesticated animals, and in time began to turn against each other and, horrifyingly, against human beings themselves. The earth, once a paradise, was then filled with bloodshed, blatant injustice, and constant terror under the brutal and relentless dominion of these fearsome beings. The divine creation, which was once perfect and in harmony, groaned under the overwhelming weight of this rampant corruption, desperately crying out for divine justice before the throne of divinity. We don't have physical giants today, but what are the giants of our society? The overwhelming forces that oppress, exploit, and cause chaos, devouring peace and justice? It is in this apocalyptic scenario of profound despair and moral depravity, so familiar to our own times, that the patriarch Enoch emerges with a divinely appointed mission. He is chosen by the Creator to be the celestial messenger, the scribe of cosmic truths, the prophet who would witness the grand truths of the universe and the ultimate destiny of all existence. In a series of extraordinary visions and journeys that defy earthly logic, Enoch is taken to unimaginable celestial realms, to hidden corners of the earth, to dark abysses, and to places of torment. He traverses the various levels of the heavens, and in some interpretations he is guided even to the 10th heaven, witnessing the unspeakable glory of the divine thrones, the perfect and mathematically precise order of the stars and planets, and the intricate secrets of time and space. He witnesses the places of punishment reserved for the celestial beings who strayed, and the abysses destined for the spirits of the ancient giants. At each step of his visionary journey, Enoch diligently writes down everything he sees and hears, compiling a detailed and exhaustive record of the celestial wonders and infernal horrors revealed to him. Enoch was an observer and a scribe. Are we observing the signs around us and recording the lessons of history, or are we blind to the repetition of cycles? The visions granted to Enoch are not limited to the distant past and the immediate present. They extend deeply into the cosmic future, culminating in the most solemn, fearsome, and definitive of all revelations, the great final reckoning, the final judgment. The writing that bears Enoch's name describes with an impressive richness of detail a time when the Creator himself will intervene decisively and irrefutably to correct all accumulated injustices, punish the wicked without distinction, and restore primordial harmony throughout all creation. In a world that cries out for justice but often denies it to the weakest, isn't it comforting, and at the same time terrifying, to be certain that there will be a day of universal reckoning? This great final reckoning is not an isolated event in time, but a comprehensive cosmic process that will affect everything and everyone. First, the celestial beings initiate all cosmic development will be judged relentlessly and chained in abysses of darkness and torment, where they will remain until the day of eternal and irreversible condemnation. The ancient giants, the monstrous fruits of the profane union, will be completely annihilated and their spirits imprisoned, so that they can never again disturb the peace of the earth. However, the great final reckoning is not restricted to celestial beings and their hybrid and monstrous descendants. It extends, justly and unswervingly, to all humanity without exception. If every action, thought, and intention will be judged, how should that shape our daily choices? Are we living in a way that we would want to be evaluated? Enoch is led to the vision of the great judgment throne, where the Creator himself, in his unmatched majesty, his unlimited power, and his infinite wisdom, will preside over the accountability of every individual soul. The acts, intentions, and choices of each individual, from the most remote times until the end of days, will be exposed to the light of divine truth, a light that penetrates everything and hides nothing. There will be no place for hiding, for subterfuge, or for deception. Those who lived in deliberate injustice, in human cruelty, and persistent disobedience to divine precepts will be condemned to eternal and inescapable suffering, separated forever from the light and benevolent presence of the Creator. For them, the doors of hope will be irrevocably closed. The purifying fire, a recurring and powerful image of the great final reckoning in numerous spiritual traditions, will consume wickedness, corruption, and all impurity, preparing the way for a new and glorious era. Can we truly ignore the seriousness of a judgment where there is no way to hide or negotiate our inner truth? On the other hand, the great final reckoning will bring with it the promise of salvation, redemption, and an eternal reward for the righteous, for those who remain faithful, who sincerely sought the truth, and who lived according to the divine principles of righteousness. For them, a new earth and a new heaven will be prepared, free from sin, pain, suffering, and all the imperfections of earthly existence. Creation will be completely renewed in its primordial and original beauty, and the Creator's presence will dwell eternally among His chosen ones. It will be a time of perfect peace, unspeakable joy, and an uninterrupted and full communion with the divine. The writing that bears Enoch's name describes this renewal as a garden of delights and pleasures, where the Creator's light will shine ceaselessly and life will prosper in its purest and fullest plenitude. Isn't the promise of a renewed world, free from all evil, the greatest hope we can cherish amidst the current chaos? The overwhelming intensity of the great final reckoning, as revealed to the patriarch Enoch, serves as a solemn, imposing, and unforgettable warning. It is not simply a narrative told for entertainment purposes or to fill historical gaps, but an urgent and incisive call to deep individual reflection and drastic change. Reevaluate our priorities before it's too late. The existence of the celestial beings who strayed and the ancient giants, the moral depravity they introduced into the world, and the inevitable reckoning that followed are a crystal clear mirror for the human condition and for the moral choices each of us makes daily. The writing that bears Enoch's name, though not considered an integral part of the books that make up the canonical scriptures in most religious denominations, offers a unique, sometimes disturbing and challenging perspective on the spiritual forces at work in the invisible world and the intrinsic seriousness of each individual's moral responsibility. It compels us to confront the reality of a just, omnipotent, and absolutely sovereign Creator who will not allow wickedness to persist unpunished and who will eventually establish His perfect and unshakable justice throughout the cosmos. History repeats itself not as farce, but as an insistent echo. If Enoch's world was destroyed due to its corruption, what fate awaits ours, which often seems to reproduce and even surpass that same depravity? Enoch's narrative reminds us, unequivocally, that even amidst the deepest darkness and the most widespread corruption that may plague the world, the resplendent light of divine truth and justice will always prevail over the shadows. It is a luminous message of hope for the righteous, for those who persevere in righteousness, and a severe and categorical warning for the wicked, for those who surrender to iniquity. The detailed revelations about the celestial beings who strayed, who dared to defy the celestial order and the Creator's will, and the ancient giants, the monstrous fruits of their disobedience and transgression, paint a vivid and unforgettable picture of the intrinsic gravity of sin and its devastating and far-reaching consequences. Are we, in our era of self-indulgence and moral relativism, underestimating the power of transgression and its cosmic ramifications? And above all, the tireless and central focus on the great final reckoning serves as an unshakable beacon, illuminating the path to redemption for those who seek forgiveness, and just punishment for those who persist in wickedness, ensuring that no act, whether good or evil, will go unnoticed in the grand cosmic scheme. Friends and brethren, if this message resonates in your souls, if it compels you to seek more, to share more, then don't forget to leave your like on this video. It's a small gesture that makes a huge difference in reaching more hearts with this truth. The sacred texts of various traditions point to signs and prophecies indicating the proximity of the end times, or the consummation of the ages. This is not empty speculation, but a pattern that unfolds with alarming clarity. Increased violence, the proliferation of conflicts, the decay of moral values, the spread of diseases and natural disasters on a global scale. All these are events described in prophecies, and which today we see unfolding before our eyes. Can we continue to ignore these signs, attributing them merely to chance, or reality? The devaluation of life, the trivialization of the sacred, the exacerbation of selfishness, and the unbridled pursuit of pleasure and power, to the detriment of compassion and justice, are symptoms of a spiritual sickness that echoes, frighteningly, the atmosphere of Enoch's days. Isn't it evident that the world is, in many ways, repeating the same mistakes that led to the destruction of a previous era? Prophecies are not just passive predictions. They are active warnings, urgent invitations to change. They show us that the end is near, not as a paralyzing fear, but as an incentive to live with purpose and conscience. Share this video and this message with everyone you love, with your family, friends, and on your social media. The truth that was silenced for centuries needs to reach everyone. Just as the earth in Enoch's days cried out for justice and divine intervention, our world today, with its glaring inequalities, its environmental destruction, and its insatiable thirst for more, seems to cry out for similar intervention. The final judgment is not a distant threat, but the certainty that disorder will not prevail forever, that there is an inevitable turning point in the tapestry of time. If destruction came in those days because of widespread corruption, what makes us think we are immune, given the current state of our planet and society? The hour of truth approaches for each of us. Enoch, the man who walked with the Creator, left us not only a legacy of visions and prophecies about the final judgment and the fall of celestial beings, but a model of life. He shows us that it is possible to maintain a deep and true connection with the divine, even amidst the greatest corruption. How can we, in our busy and distracting daily lives, emulate Enoch's walk with the Creator? This walk is not an act of isolation, but of alignment with the higher will, of seeking righteousness, and of loving truth. He challenges us to reflect on our own actions, on the path we are treading. Are we building a legacy of light or contributing to darkness? Are our daily choices bringing us closer to or further away from divine purpose? Are we living in such a way that if the great final reckoning were to happen today, we would be prepared to face the light of truth without fear? Time is a river that flows incessantly, and the signs of its final current are everywhere. The ancient prophecies and the facts we witness daily point to a crescendo that will culminate in the final judgment, just as it happened in Enoch's days. We can no longer pretend ignorance. The truth has been revealed. Now the choice is ours. Just as Enoch chose to walk with the Creator, refuse and follow the ways of a corrupted generation, we too are called to make our choice. What will be our legacy in the face of the imminent final judgment? The indifference that led to ruin, or the faith and action that lead to redemption and a new beginning? And if you want to continue delving into these themes, receiving more insights and reflections that can transform your understanding of the world and the future, subscribe, activate the bell icon so you don't miss any notifications. May this truth, once whispered only in secret, now echo loud and clear, serving as an eternal and fundamental warning to all humanity, inviting everyone to deep reflection, a change of life, and preparation for the times to come. For what you are about to witness is not just a story, it is your own story unfolding before the imminent final judgment.